Hello, all you Elvis fans. This is Krista Joy, founder of TCBRadioNetwork.com.
And I'm your co-host of TCB Radio Network and Elvis tribute artist, Peter Alden. Welcome to the TCB Radio Network podcast. Get ready for some Elvis content and news you can use, where it's all Elvis, all the time.
We've got your interviews with authors, Elvis fan club presidents, artists, musicians, and of course, close personal friends of Elvis Presley, the people who knew him, the man himself.
Thank you for tuning in.
Now sit back, relax, and enjoy.
It's time for the TCB Radio Network podcast.
Tonight, we have a very special guest interview for you. One of Elvis Presley's dearest and most trusted friends, and in many ways, his spiritual mentor. He's been a spiritual seeker since his teens. He's a vegetarian, a student of natural nutrition and alternative healing. He has dedicated his life to serving and assisting others and to telling the story of the real Elvis Presley. Joining us tonight on TCB Radio Network, the amazing Larry Geller. Larry, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm listening to the way you're describing me, and I'm saying, wait a minute, that's me?
Yes, we're talking about you.
I've been looking forward to being on your show. I've heard a lot about it, and I always have a lot to say, so I'm raring to go, and I'm really happy to be here, and so let's do it.
Yeah, well, we're excited to have you. So we're going to kick it off with the first question I know you always get on all of your interviews. But will you share with everybody who hasn't yet heard, how did you meet Elvis and how did you start doing his hair?
I love the question because it goes right to the heart of the whole matter. Because just like you and everyone else that's listening and watching right now, I was an Elvis fan. I remember, just like you all do, where I was the very first time I heard Elvis sing. And when I heard that, my life changed. I was in high school. I learned every song because once Heartbreak Hotel came out, one after another, gold record, they just kept coming out, and I knew every word to every song. I bought a guitar, I went to parties on the weekends, and I would imitate Elvis. I would mouth to his music, and I knew every inflection, every movement, and I was in love with Elvis when I was in high school. And I belonged to a club, and there was 6 of us, and one day, one of the guys said, "Hey, you guys, Elvis is coming to town, to the Pan Pacific Auditorium." Now, back in 1957, there was no rock concerts. We didn't know from anything like that. And by the mere fact that Elvis was coming to town, that was something else. I was so excited. So my buddies and I went to the Pan Pacific Auditorium, and we got there, we realized that something historical was coming down, because we're looking around, and all we see in all directions, thousands of kids our age pouring in from everywhere. We never experienced anything like it. And we thought we were so cool. None of us had tickets. We thought someone would invite us in. We were screaming. And so, as everyone's going in, we started to get really nervous. We went to the side of the building because we knew the auditorium, and it was in our neighborhood, and that's where the ice capades were, and auto shows and political events. So we went to the side of the building, and we tried to yank open one of the doors. Wouldn't work. Went to the back of the building. Before we knew it, just about everyone went in. And we're looking at each other, and I'm out of my mind. And we went to the other side, the far end of the building, and I looked, and I said to my friends, look, and I pointed. There he is. And Elvis was standing, wearing his gold plaid jacket, with his foot propped up on the bumper of the car, I looked at my buddies, and they froze. And I realized they were petrified. I said, well, I'm going. And so I just beelined it. I ran to Elvis, and as I ran up to him, and I still didn't get my growth spurt. I was much shorter than him at that point. I ran up to him, he looks at me, and I look up at that face, the hair, the eyes, the sideburns, the lips. There was Elvis in front of me. I was tongue-tied. I couldn't believe it, and I could tell that he had this, like this inner energy that was just burning. It was just emanating from him. And he looked at me, and he smiled, and he put out he saw that I was nervous. He put out his hand, and he said, hi, I'm Elvis Presley. And I started to stutter, and I put my hand into his. Hi, Elvis. I'm Larry Geller. It's so great to, and the minute I said that, one of the guys said, Elvis, you're on. I'll never forget it. I could hear it in my ear right now. He said, you're on now. They want you now, Elvis. Come on, man. And Elvis looked at me, and he was very nonchalant. Shrugged his shoulders. He said, well, you heard what they said. Talk to you some other time, Larry. And he walked off. Can you imagine? Here I am, a teenage guy who just met Elvis. I'm standing there, and people come up to me, my buddies. I'm in the zone. I'm in the Elvis zone, okay? People are shaking my hand, and I'm dazed out of my mind. Some girl came over, put her arm around me, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what is happening? This is so cool, you know? So that's how I originally met Elvis. But to move the story along, a couple months later, I graduate high school. I enter college, and a couple months after that, my best friend, Christian, one evening said to me, he said, Larry, what are you doing? You're kidding yourself. You're only taking 4 units. You're going to college, and you're taking 4 units. What do you want to do with your life? And I said, Christian, I don't know, man. I'm not sure. There's so many things I want to do, and my dad was in show business. Maybe I could get into show business. He said, Larry, that's a very hard thing to do. You need to have something to fall back on. You've got to be able to learn a living. He said, look, you're very creative, you're very artistic. Why don't you become a hairstylist? And when he said that, I thought about it, and he said to me, I'll never forget, he said, you never know what doors will open. And when he said that to me, it's like something in me made a decision. A few days later, I dropped out of college. I entered cosmetology college, went through the course, and as I'm waiting, this is in West Hollywood, by the way, in Southern California, and I'm waiting for the results to see if I'm licensed and I can do this. And I met someone. I walked into someone's, it looked like a salon, and I couldn't tell when I walked in if it was a beauty salon or a barber shop. I was confused. There was a guy there hanging plants up. There was jazz music playing, and this is around 1960. And he introduced himself, and I said, what is this place? He said, well, I'm going to be opening in a couple of days the first hair styling salon for men in America. I said, oh, how interesting. I told him all about myself. He said, don't become a hairstylist, Larry. Don't work on women's hair. Join forces with me. This is going to be the coming thing. We're going to be pioneers, innovators. And I said, okay. The doors opened a few days later, and overnight, our clientele read like a Hollywood who's who.
Amazing.
Frank Sinatra, Marlon Brando, Steve McQueen, Fonda, Rock Hudson, Paul Newman. I'm doing Peter Sellers' hair, Roy Orbison, Glenn Kemp. It was amazing. 19 years old, and all this is happening to me. And a couple of years went by with the #1 place in Hollywood, and most of the TV series, the movies of the 60s, that's our work. And one afternoon, in April of 1964, I'm styling someone's hair at the salon. My phone rang, and I answered it, and the voice said, Larry, this guy had a southern drawl. He said, I'm sitting here with Elvis Presley. When I heard that name, I just went back into the Elvis zone. And he said, I'm sitting here with Elvis Presley at his home, Bel Air. And he wants to know if you'd like to come over to his house this afternoon to fix his hair.
Oh, my goodness.
And I could remember, Krista, Pete, I could remember what I thought when his name was Alan Fortas, who passed away several years ago. And he worked for Elvis for many years. And he said that, and I thought to myself, I didn't know Elvis's hair was broken. So I said, yeah, I'd love to. And they told me where to go. I got so excited, as you can well imagine. I packed my bags and put all my equipment in. I'm running out of the salon, and I'll never forget, I'm running out the door, and the receptionist, this gal, said, Larry, wait a minute, I have Peter Sellers on the phone, and he wants you to come over to the house right now. I said, you tell Peter I'll call him later. I didn't care who it was. Because Elvis, and here I am with, people like Milton Berle, Jackie Gleason, Rod Sterling of Twilight Zone, all these famous people, but Elvis was the celebrity of the celebrities. He was, he is, and he always will be. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just so excited. I drove up, and when I got to Elvis's street in Bel Air, I knew his house immediately because there were hundreds of people in the front of all types. And as I'm driving in, people are screaming at me, tell Elvis I'm here, and tell Elvis I love him. I was getting off on it. I mean, it was incredible. So I walk into Elvis's house, right? In Bel Air on Pruvia Road. And I'm looking around. And within 1 minute, Elvis walks up to me. A couple of guys behind him. This mafia. Elvis walks up to me. And he puts out his hand. He says, hi, I'm Elvis Presley. I'm having a flashback of this kid. Hi, Elvis, Now, I'm standing. Elvis is about 6 feet tall. I stand 6'2". So now we're the same height just about. I put my hand out and I said, Elvis, it's great meeting you. And of course, I didn't tell him. Mm-hmm. He said, well, come on, Larry, let's go into my bathroom. Take care of my hair, we'll talk. And he says to the guys, you guys, I'll see y'all later. So we go into the bathroom, and there was a bowl, a basin. And he said, come on, we'll do it right here, real nonchalant. He put his head in, and I put a towel around him to drape him. And at the salon, I have someone doing it for me, but I'm doing this, and it's Elvis, and I'm being very, very careful, as you can well imagine. Mm-hmm. And I pour the shampoo, and I lather it up, and now I'm cupping the water. It's not a shampoo bowl, it's a basin. And so I'm trying to get all the shampoo out. I didn't even fully complete it, and all of a sudden, Elvis picks his body up, and he starts reeling back and forth, and water is splattering everywhere. It's hitting me. His shirt I can see the front of his shirt is drenched and towel is drenched, and he looks at me with that Elvis smile, and he shrugs his shoulders, and he said, "Hey, Larry, what the hell, man? At least it's clean." I'll tell you something. When Elvis said that, and he gestured that way, I became so at ease. I knew in that split second who Elvis was as a person. Because here I'm dealing with some of the biggest stars in the history of motion pictures. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them, they have egos like you can't believe. I'm telling you. Some of them they want you to know who they are. And they let you. Elvis, I could have been his gardener or a mechanic or a senator. It didn't matter. Because I learned right then and there, and I saw this throughout the rest of his life, Elvis treated every person like they were the only person, and they were a human being just like him. And that was part of who Elvis was as a person. So we sat down in front of this long mirror, long marble ledge, and he's explaining to me that he's right in the middle of a movie called Roustabout, that we all know about. And he said, "So Larry," he said, "you can't cut too much. The scenes have to match." I said, "Elvis, don't you worry, man. I know exactly what you want." He said, "Well, okay. I'm going to leave the driving to you." And I started to do his hair. And it took me, I'd say, about maybe 40 minutes, and not a word was spoken. And I figured if he wants to, talk, I'm going to respect his privacy. I'm there to engage in conversation, but I'll let him go first. And I could see, because I was looking in the mirror as I'm doing his hair, and every move I made, his eyes would follow. He was a very aware, bright person. And so let me mention something now. This is a good place. Here I am working with, I'm telling you, the most handsome men of the 20th century. I mean, come on, Paul Newman in his prime, Rock Hudson and Warren Beatty. These guys were really handsome. You know what? Elvis was a notch above the rest of them. I'm telling you. He was like a living masterpiece. And I'm speaking professionally as a man. This guy had everything. He had the most beautiful head of hair, perfect hairline, the right body. I had to create my own products for him, and I would squeeze vitamin E capsules from my vitamin E capsules. I put that and aloe vera and some herbs, and I put it in my shampoo, and I would shake it up. But he had the perfect face. He had everything. It was the perfect package. And I'm looking at Elvis, and I blew dry his hair, and I sprayed it. And I said, "So what do you think, Elvis?" And he looked, he said, "Oh, beautiful, beautiful." And he swings around in the chair. And we're standing right next to each other. And he puts his finger in my face. He said to me, "Who are you?" Just like that. "Who are you, Larry? What are you really all about? What are you really into?" And I was stunned, I got to tell you. That is so straightforward. But Secret Band kind of loved it. Because this guy was different than anyone else I have ever met. And he was so straightforward by asking me that. He wasn't messing around. He wanted to know, because he heard something about me, and that's why he had someone call me to come to the house. He heard some things about me. I said, well, Elvis, I said, you know what I do for a living. You know, I go to the studios and we work on all the celebrities. You know all that. That's how I work. That's my work. That's how I earn money to live. But I hear what you're saying to me. I understand your question. Believe me, I do. To tell you the truth, what's more important to me than my work and more important to me than money is my search for the truth of life. I'm searching for God. I'm searching to find out who I am. Do we really have a soul? I mean, why are we born? Why are we here, Elvis? What happens to us when we die? I said, look, I read spiritual books, and I meditate, and I'm a vegetarian, and I pray, and I look, Elvis, I know you're the biggest star on planet Earth. This probably sounds corny to you, because I started getting a little nervous. I became very self-conscious. And he said, whoa, wait a minute, Larry. Just wait a minute. You have no idea how I need to hear what you have to say. He said, believe me. You know, everyone, you know, they think I'm Elvis Presley, and they have all these ideas about me. They have no idea where I'm really coming from. What you're talking about is what I secretly think about all the time. And by the way, Krista and Pete and everyone else, you gotta remember, this is 1964. People didn't talk about these things in those days. Today, you turn on television and this is Oprah's thing. You go to the books, this is what everyone's reading. There's a yoga salon in every corner now. This is what people, there's been a spiritual awakening. We're in a different time, in a different place. Everything that Elvis did in his life was way before his time. He was, this guy was something else. So this conversation was very unusual in 1964. Well, we got into a conversation. It was amazing. It went on for a couple hours. And I'll give you just a couple of the highlights. Because that conversation set the tone and became the bond, the glue of our relationship to this very conversation I'm having with you today. He said to me, he said, Larry, my mother was spiritual. My mom was so spiritual, that's where I get it. I get it from her. I remember as a kid, man, I used to get these asthma attacks, and she used to lay her hands on me and give me healings, and pray to me, and talk to me. We got into a conversation that blew my mind because Elvis started to cry. He told me about his twin brother, Jesse Garrett. He said, man, you have no idea where I came from, Larry. He said, I came from poverty that people can't even imagine today. Most people take their lives for granted. He said, I don't. Every day I wake up, I'm so grateful for my life. He said, you know what? We didn't have electricity in our house. We didn't have light bulbs. You know, you walk into a room, you flip the switch. We didn't have that. He said, we didn't even have faucets with running water. You want some water? You take the bucket, you go to the well outside. Mm-hmm. He said, my daddy built the house with his own hands. A wooden, two-room wooden shack. You want to go to the bathroom? We didn't have a bathroom. You go outside to the outhouse. Man, we were poor. And that's branded on my soul. And my mom used to tell me when I first came on the scene as an entertainer, and she said, Elvis, don't you ever forget. Don't forget where you came from. He said, Larry, I'll never forget. He said, I was born at home. My brother, my twin brother, Jesse Garrett, he didn't make it. He was stillborn. Why me, Larry? Why me? Why not Jesse? Why wasn't he born? I have so many questions. Just like read some of those books you got. He said, why me? What would have happened if he would have been born and the both of us grew up? Would it be the Presley brothers? He said, Larry, he said, believe me, man, I know where you're coming from. And I said, look, Elvis, I looked at my watch. A couple of hours went by, and I said, Elvis, I got to get back to the salon. I know Peter Sellers. He said, Peter Sellers, he's my favorite performer. Elvis knew. By the way, you know, I shouldn't say by the way, because most of Elvis fans know that Elvis had almost like a photographic type memory. He knew every line from all the Peter Sellers movies.
Wow.
When Elvis read a script, he would only have to read it maybe twice, 3 times. He knew all of his lines. And a lot of his co-stars, they'd be in the middle of a scene, and they would remember Elvis under his breath giving the line.
Wow.
Because he knew their lines, right?
Yeah, I'd heard about the photographic memory, but I hadn't heard that that's amazing.
It is amazing. And so I said, Elvis, I got to get back to the salon. So he says to me, he said, Larry, I got a great idea, man. A better idea. Go back to the salon. And when you get back there, tell them that you quit. Because you could be working for Elvis Presley full time. What do you think? Well, I didn't have to think.
Yeah, really, what's to think about there?
Brain matter.
Right, you're like, okay, sure, Elvis, no problem.
Because I knew, but I knew in that moment, I understood what he was saying to me. And I knew why he offered me that position. Because he was saying several things to me. He was saying, number one, if you accept the offer, you are going to become responsible, in charge of the image of Elvis Presley. This man was,
No pressure.
Elvis is the greatest star that ever lived. But he was also a major movie star.
Right.
Both. I mean, this is something else already. So you're going to become responsible for the look, for movies, album covers, graphics, the works. And, I can't take that lightly. That is heavy duty to do that. And I did it every day. And I don't mean once. When we make movies, we made, I make Lost About Girl, Happy, Double Trouble, Easy Come, Easy Go, Harem Scarum, Double, Paradise Hawaiian Style, Clam Bake Spin. I'm probably forgetting a few, maybe 11 movies. When we got to the studio, we were there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and Elvis was never late once. He was highly professional. And the first order of the day is you go into the dressing room with me. I did his hair. And once I do his hair, then the makeup guy comes in. But during a day's shooting, Elvis would be doing his own scenes, stunt scenes and fight scenes, and his hair would always fall, and the scenes had to match. There were days I did his hair 6 to 10 times, so I was always doing his hair.
Now,
so when he said to me, "Do you want? What do you think?" He was asking me to take on that responsibility and that task, but he was saying something else to me. He was saying, I want you to bring me books. I want to engage in conversations. I want you to tell me what you have learned and what you have gleaned from all these books. And when I said yes, he said, just be at Paramount Studios tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock and bring me some books. That was the first thing he said to me. And so, matter is that to put this in perspective, I wore 3 hats. I knew 3 Elvises. I knew Elvis the performer, like we all do. And that's why we're all here. Because I was involved doing my own performing with him as a professional. And then there was the Memphis Mafia, the guys, and I became one of the guys. And we laugh and play, go to movies, and play football, and hang out together. So I knew that Elvis, like the guys did. But then there was the serious Elvis, Elvis the seeker, Elvis, because Elvis was a brilliant man. Elvis was a voracious reader who grew over the years and was so bright, but he was a searcher for truth and wanted to open up and become the spiritual person he was. When I say spiritual, I don't mean anything unusual or anything special. I'm talking about just being natural, because Elvis was always natural. That was his beauty. That was his talent. That's who he was. But the people around Elvis they weren't interested in reading those books, and they laughed at it. And they, so I knew 3 Elvises. And it caused a lot of problems for me personally over the years. There was a lot of resentment and a lot of jealousy, but I don't like to dwell on that. And it's okay now, because I was there for Elvis. I was there till the very, very end. I made all the movies, and over the years, we amassed a spiritual library that was phenomenal. You should have seen Elvis's bedroom at Graceland. I mean, he tons of books. Everywhere Elvis went, 2 huge trunks filled with 200 of his favorite books had to go with him wherever he went, because he read every day of his life. And it was so interesting to me. Some of the women in Elvis's life, like Mindy Miller, is an example.
Mindy Miller, she's online right
Miller's
now.
online
Yeah,
with us right now.
I didn't want to interrupt you, Larry, but we have about 20 people with us online right now. People like Terry from the UK, Jeff's here from Orlando, Florida. We've got who else is here? Todd, Barbara.
I saw Don Wilson was here.
Don Wilson logged in.
Perfect.
Yep, we wanted to say hi to everybody real quick. And Terry's here from Chicago. And Sissy Young, she's watching live from Kentucky. Sissy Young.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, I love all these people. They're wonderful. And Don is a good friend of Elvis's. And Elvis really liked Don.
Oh,
Don was very, very special to Elvis.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
he's special to me
Miller
too.
is extremely important in Elvis's life, because let me put it this way. The guys, they didn't take Elvis's books. They didn't take to his search. But when anyone that came into Elvis's orbit, especially the women, Elvis would turn them onto the books. And women were very, very open and receptive, because the truth of the matter is women are more spiritual than men. And that's the truth. It is the truth. But Mindy was even more so, because Mindy herself is a very, very spiritual person. So they connected. So she was able to connect, understand Elvis in a very, very special way. Now, I want to go back to that first evening with Elvis. And I said to you when I first started that first conversation set the tone for our relationship to this very moment. And I learned something about Elvis that I want to bring out. That everyone really knows, one way or another, whether it's intellectually or emotionally or subconsciously. Here's what I learned the first meeting with Elvis. Not that he was a great performer, and we all know that. Not that he was the most handsome of them all. Not that he had all the gifts and all the fans and all the money and all of everything that life has to offer. He was, more than any person that ever lived in the 20th century, he's the only one who ascended and reached the very top of Mount Everest. Elvis. He went to the top of the world. And here's what I learned. There was a hole. There was something missing in him, and he knew it. There was a hollowness. There was a sadness. A lot of people say, well, maybe it's because he had a twin brother and he didn't. Elvis had a sadness about him because he had everything. He had the looks, he had the money. But Elvis knew consciously that without God, without the truth, without being whole, without knowing why you're born, without understanding your purpose, your destiny, you're lost. You're lost. And there's a lot of people out there that are lost. And there were a lot of people in Elvis's life who he felt were lost. And he would say, someday, whether it's this life or another, everyone comes to the truth. Because and Elvis recognized, he knew, every person is spiritual. Most people don't know it. And that's the problem.
Well, yeah, and I want to draw everybody's attention, too, if you haven't already, Larry's also an author. And if you're just joining us, we're talking to Larry Geller, one of Elvis's dearest and most trusted friends. He is also the author of Leaves of Elvis's Garden, the Song of His Soul. And I want to let everybody know we're going to put a link in the blog post so you can hit that and purchase Larry's book. He's got a lot of great stuff to share there as well. Now, Larry, I know when we spoke on the phone yesterday, too, you mentioned that you wanted to tell the story about the night that the Beatles came to meet Elvis.
Oh, I do. Because not only was it fantastic, but it leads into something that turns some people on. A light bulb is going to go off. I promise. There's some people, these producers, that have come to me and they want to make a movie of that night called The Night That the Beatles Met Elvis. And it was in August of 1965. The Beatles came on the scene, 64, and overnight the Beatles were born and they became the sensation. And they, what did they want to do more than anything else? They wanted to know
Elvis, of course.
Of course, just like everyone who's listening right now.
Yeah, exactly.
If we would say, right now, you could meet anyone you can. I think Elvis might be kind of in the top three. Right?
Absolutely, top three.
The Beatles wanted to meet Elvis.
Mm-hmm.
So, a meeting was finally arranged because he turned it down several times. He finally gave in, kind of worked out. We were just finishing the movie. So the news was leaked out purposely. And that night, I'm telling you, there was I can't imagine how many people are outside the gates in Bel Air at Elvis's home. And I got to the house early, and Elvis and I went into the bathroom, and the guys were there, and a couple of girlfriends, and a couple of wives, and Elvis and I went to the bathroom, and Mindy knows this for sure. We're going to tell you, Elvis would love to talk. You couldn't shut him up, and he would tell you stories. He was so interesting. But that night, he sat there, and I could see that he was really pensive and really withdrawn. I knew what it was. It was obvious. And I didn't say anything. I moved his hair. And he looked, Elvis always looked great, but he looked especially magnificent that night. He was on fire within himself emotionally. And all all of a sudden he broke the silence, and he looked, and he said, and he snapped his finger, and he pointed, and he said, "Man, I know where those guys are coming from. I've been there, and I've done it." And he started to use language that I don't think I'm allowed to use. But use your imagination. You'll know, because Elvis would do this. I mean, let's be real. And he said, "I know those guys are coming from. I've been there, and I've done it. What the blah am I doing with my life? Making these blah 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 movies. These damn movies. I can say damn. Saying they have no meaning. They don't help any." He said, "Man, I'm making the same damn old movie. It's the same old flick. All they do is change my name. It's the same movie over and I've had it." And he started talking about Colonel Parker. And I'm going to tell you, he opened up about how he felt about Colonel Parker. He said, "Man, I go to this man. I open my heart to him. I tell him, 'Colonel, I'm an actor. I'm an actor. I want to be in real movies. I want to do the movies that Brando does. I want to do movies like James Dean. I can do it. I can do it. I'm telling you, give me the chance." And he tells me the same old story. "Yeah, Elvis, we're going to do it. Don't worry. We just got to find the right script. And your fans, they want to hear you sing, Elvis." He said, "Larry, you know what they're doing, man? They're packaging me. That's what they're doing. They're packaging me. Every movie and album comes out. RCA's making millions. The studios, Paramount, MGM, they're making millions." He said, "Hey, don't get me wrong. I'm making money too, but I'm not in this just for the money. There's so much more I have to give. There's so much more to Elvis Presley that my fans know about. I got to do this, and they won't do it. And here's the Beatles. They're coming to meet Elvis." He said, "I'm going to tell you the truth, man. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm nervous to go out there tonight. I know what these guys must think. I'm making these movies, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to meet these guys. But damn it, I'm going to do something. I don't know what, but I'm going to do something." So we went out there. Elvis looked so extraordinary. He wore this blue, I'll never forget, it came from Fred Siegel's, Don, and do you know what I'm talking about? Fred Siegel is one of the clothing stores in Southern California. And Elvis got a lot of his clothes from. In Memphis, he would get it in Lansky, of course. But he was wearing these bolero shirts that he got from, with his big puffy shirts from Fred Siegel, and he wore this big blue bolero shirt. And so we went out, we sat down in the den, and all of a sudden we heard an explosion of noise, and the door opened. And we knew that the Beatles were there because the fans outside went wild. And the four Beatles walked in. In front of them was the manager, Brian Epstein. Colonel Parker was there that night. And the Beatles had a couple of their roadies with them, their entourage. They walked up to Elvis, and everyone's introduced. Everyone shakes hands. Elvis sits, we're in the den, and Elvis sits in the chair, and the four Beatles sat in front of Elvis on the floor.
Of course.
Legs crossed, Indian style.
Yeah.
Looking up.
And I'm sitting right next to Elvis, and I'm looking at the Beatles, and everyone had the same expression on their face, and everyone, their jaws were open. Their jaws dropped, and they're just staring at Elvis. And they're tongue-tied. And there's this silence that goes on for 15 to 20 seconds. That's a long time. And Elvis is looking at them. He looks around. He shrugs his shoulders. he stands up and says, "The hell are you guys? You don't want to talk to me. I'm going to my room," and everyone starts to laugh.
What are y'all looking at?
Elvis was I'm going to tell you something. Elvis was a master. He was in control. He knew exactly what to do. He knew if he did that, it would break the ice. And it did. And John, and they just jumped to their feet. All of them stood up. And they said, "Elvis, man," and John and Paul especially, "Elvis, man, thank you so much for letting us come here. If it wasn't for you, Elvis, we wouldn't be here.
Wow.
There'd be no Beatles. There'd be no Beatles, man. There'd be nothing. You
Amazing.
did it. You got me, all of us, all these groups from England, Elvis. You know, they came into music because of you. You're it, and we appreciate you. We love you." And they went on and on. And I'll never forget, in Elvis's homes, in every room, there was a TV always on. No sound, though, because, you know, Elvis had company. but the TV was on because we were watching TV before they came in. So, but Elvis muted it. So Paul elbowed John and said, "Look, color telly." So the evening started to progress. Ringo and George left the room with most of the guys who worked for Elvis. Colonel Parker and Brian Epstein were in the other room because Colonel Parker had a roulette wheel brought in. And, you know, everyone has their addictions in life, as we know. Everyone. Whether it's food or drugs or alcohol or sex or money or whatever. Colonel Parker was addicted to gambling, which is a whole other story. We can do this some other time. And he played roulette with Brian Epstein, and they talked amongst themselves. And the other guys, in Elvis's living room, there was a pool table. And so Ed and Sonny and Alan and all the other guys with Ringo, they went and they played pool. That left Jerry Schilling and myself and one other guy with Elvis, John, and Paul in the den. In Elvis's den, he had 3 or 4 of his guitars on stands. So we're talking, and John said to Elvis, "Can I play your guitar?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, pick it up, play it." So John picked up a guitar, started to strum. A few minutes later, there was a bass guitar, and Paul grabbed it, and I was like, "Go on, man." Then Elvis picks up his Martin, and the 3 of them started to jam. And they played for about 20 minutes, and they sang. In the room, there was a reel-to-reel tape, but no way was it turned on. Impossible. Not only was it impossible, but Colonel Parker was a control freak. He would not allow one photograph to be taken that night in the house.
Oh, wow.
That's so unfortunate.
Yeah.
Imagine?
Yeah.
But today, yeah.
Crazy.
A picture of Elvis and the Beatles together, that would be phenomenal.
Oh, my God. Many pictures that night. And they sang, and I'm sitting there, and I could remember thinking to myself, at this moment, in the infinity of time and space, I'm in the very best place in the universe. Where else could it be better at this moment? Elvis and the Beatles are playing music and singing together. What?
Unbelievable.
What?
Mm-hmm.
This is history at its right. It was something else. And
You were there.
so, to move the story further along, a few minutes later, I realized I walked in the other room, and I didn't see George. I saw where did George go? And I went into every room and I asked no one where George was. I thought, well, this is weird because we have police everywhere outside. And I thought it couldn't be down in the backyard. And I opened the door, and the minute I opened the door, it was pitch black. But I knew he was there because I could smell the fragrance in the air. He was smoking a joint. I looked, and I see someone under a tree, and a hand comes out with a joint. So I walked over, and I picked it up. I took a couple of hits, and I smoked with him. And we spent about 20, 30 minutes talking, and I really had a great talk with George. He was a beautiful, I'll tell you, that guy was beautiful. I'll never, ever, ever forget it. So later that night, Elvis wanted to show the Beatles his brand new Rolls Royce. You know, they're from England, Rolls Royce, right?
Yeah.
So we walked out to the car compound, and the fans went berserk. And you heard the mantra back and forth. It started out like this, screaming, Elvis, Elvis, and then the Beatles, Beatles. Elvis, we love you. Elvis, we love you. Beatles, we love you. They waved, and Elvis showed the car. We walked back in the house. And Elvis said, oh, I got one more thing to show you guys. Come on back here. I want to show you a gift Colonel Parker gave me a couple of weeks ago. And there was a little hallway that led to Elvis's bedroom. And Colonel Parker gave Elvis a wooden sauna. So we all walked back, and I said, look, it's the sauna, Colonel. And Paul walked up to the sauna to look in, because there was a little glass window, and he looked in, and he said, Elvis, who's that? Someone opened the door, and under the wooden seat, there was a 15-year-old girl huddled, and we all looked. We couldn't imagine. How did she? We never did figure out how she got in, because that place was tight. We had police everywhere. She screamed and jumped and leaped on Elvis. He grabbed her. He started laughing, and we pulled her off. And I don't know how that happened. So the Beatles left that night, a little later, and everyone left. And Elvis and I walked back. I walked him back to his bedroom. And he said, all right, Larry, I'll see you tomorrow. He said, but Lawrence, he said, I want you to remember one thing. I really like those guys a lot. And I like their music. I want you to remember one thing. I said, what's that, Elvis? He said, there's 4 of them. There's just one of me. That's what he said to me.
I love it.
Now the story gets really interesting. Do we have time?
Yeah, go ahead.
Good. All right. We leave town, I think about maybe a couple of days later, maybe a week, to go back to Memphis. In those days, we made 3 movies a year. And we make the movie. It took us a couple of months. And before the movie, if we didn't record the album in Nashville, we'd record at radio recorders. I know Don probably knows very well about radio recorders at Santa Monica Boulevard. The Stones and Bob Dylan and Bruce Springsteen, everyone recorded there because Elvis did in the 50s, let alone in the 60s. At any rate, we made 3 movies a year, and the very first thing we would do, we would leave and drive back, because Elvis did not fly in those days. He drove in his Dodge mobile home or his Greyhound, and Elvis always drove only at night because he didn't want to be recognized, he didn't want to be hassled, he wanted to be free, he didn't want to be Elvis, he just wanted to be out there in the middle of the desert and just be away from everything. And we would drive back to Memphis, spend 3 months in Memphis, and then drive back reverse and go back to California to make a movie. So we got in the Dodge Mobile home. We were in the middle of the desert, where I am right now. I'm in Sedona, Arizona, and we're not too far from here on Old Route 66. And it was about maybe 1, 2 in the morning, pitch black. Now listen to this. This is extraordinary. In those days, there wasn't even, obviously no cell phones, not even cassettes. It was 8 tracks. You know 8 track?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about? Right.
Yeah.
And we had a recorder. We had it was all set up in the Dodge Mobile home. And my position on every trip, I made about 14, 15 trips over the years with Elvis. My seating position was shotgun. I always sat next to Elvis.
Mm-hmm.
And behind us was a table, and in the back was a bathroom, and then the bedroom. And I always sat next to him, and we were driving, and Elvis put on, he loved Roy Orbison, and he knew I used to do his hair. He put on the best of Roy Orbison, and we're listening to it. And Only the Lonely came on, and Elvis started to sing Only the Lonely with Roy Orbison. And I'm just sitting there, and this is just a week earlier, we sang with the Beatles, now we sing with the Orbison. It was amazing. Now it began. The song was over. Elvis turned down the volume, and he looks at me. He had that look in his eye, and he shook his finger. Yeah, I got it. I got it, Lawrence. I got it. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to create my own album. I'm not talking about one of those movie albums. And those movie albums, those songs they make you sing. I want to do it, man. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm going to do a gospel. I mean a real gospel album. And I'm going to select every song myself. And so for the next, 4, 5, 6 months, Elvis started to plan what musicians he wanted to use, what songs he wanted to sing. When we got to Memphis, every day we would go in the office upstairs, and he had a great collection of the old 78s and 45s of all the old gospel. I'm talking the real black gospel music going back to the 40s and 50s. And he had selected every song for an album called How Great Thou Art. So we went to record that at RCA in Nashville. And this gives me the chills just remembering it, because I get very emotional myself when I'm telling you this. I dissolve back to that moment, because that time in my life was so important, so significant. I'm reliving it as I'm telling you guys this, and I got chills just thinking about it. We're in Nashville at the Albert Pike Motel. We're in Elvis's room at the motel, and all the guys are there, and they're packing everything up to go to the studio that night. Elvis only recorded at night. And he said to everyone, he said, you all go to the car. Larry and I need to talk a little bit. And we'll be down in a few minutes. Don't worry. And you all went to the cars. Elvis, they're all gone. I said, listen, Larry, sit down. I got to tell you something. This isn't one of these movie albums I'm going to do. This isn't rock and roll. This is God's music. This is important, Larry. And you know, as well as I do, that God works in mysterious ways. We have no idea who's going to hear this music. I'm going to tell you something, man. If one person, just one person, is touched by this music, then I will have done my job. And what I'm really getting at is, I'm not going to use this voice. He pointed to his throat. I'm not going to use it until I know that my ego is out of the way. I'm not going to use this voice that I've been given until I hear that still, small voice within me. So, turn the lights down. Let's pray. Let's meditate. And I'll know when I'm ready. And I'm not moving until that moment. Mm-hmm. That's what I did. I turned the lights off. We said a little prayer that we usually would say. And we were silent for about 12, 14 minutes. And all of a sudden, I heard Elvis's voice say, I'm ready. Let's hit it. And we went to the studio. And Elvis won a Grammy for it. Mm. That's where he won his Grammy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But let me finish the story, because it's extraordinary. 10 years later, we're on tour in Hollywood, Florida. Now, Hollywood's right outside of Miami, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, I don't know my geography really.
Yeah. We
Sounds
get
right.
to the hotel, and we get out of the vehicle. I think it was a Greyhound, and they, like everywhere Elvis went, hundreds and hundreds of people, and they're at the hotel, and everyone's screaming, and it was wild, like every other night. And as I get out of the vehicle, I see fans that I see everywhere we go, and there's this one girl who I noticed, and she had Elvis buttons and banners all over her jacket, her jeans, and she had a cap on, Elvis, 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 Elvis. And she said, hi, Larry. And I said, hi. I didn't even know her name. I go upstairs to my room, and I unpack it, go downstairs to eat, and I see her. I was so curious, and I said, I invited her to sit with me, and she got nervous, and I explained to her, I said, look, I'd really like to know, I see you everywhere we go. You get to hotels before we do. Mm-hmm. Tell me your story. And she proceeded to tell me. And she tells me that, she said, Larry, you can see by looking at me, I'm never going to have children. I'll never get married. I'll never have a boyfriend. And she had the most beautiful face, these gorgeous, angelic, big blue eyes. And it was obvious from the waist down that she was challenged. And she told me that when she was 8 years old, she fell down a flight of stairs, and her spine broke in many places. And over the years, all she knew was operations, hospital stays, pain, drugs, doctors, no life, nothing, pills. Mm. She said, I grew up, I had nothing to live for. I had nothing. I didn't want to go on. I had all the pills. I wrote a note to my family, Larry, and it was on my nightstand. I was ready to go. I had a glass of water, a ton of pills, and the radio was on, and all of a sudden, I heard this song, Elvis Presley singing, How Great Thou Art. Larry, I don't know what happened to me. The next thing I know, I'm on the floor, hysterically crying, and I couldn't stop, and I'm crying and crying and crying, and I just knew that God loved me, and I knew I had to live. It was because of Elvis. I had to live for Elvis. That's why I'm alive, Larry, because of Elvis. I was completely stunned. I told her what I told you about the album. And I said, Elvis is waiting for me. I'm going to tell, her name was Darlene. Mm-hmm. I said, Darlene, I'm going upstairs. I'm going to tell Elvis. She said, you're going to tell Elvis? And blew her mind. I said, absolutely. Upstairs. And as I'm telling you, I can see this so vividly because Elvis's suite was on the very top floor. And when I walked into the room, Elvis was standing by himself, wearing his blue robe pants way down in the parking lot. And he turned to me. He said, "Larry, what's up?" And I told him. He got unglued. He cried like crazy.
Mm.
And he said, "Larry, you have no idea how I needed to hear that. You have no idea." But I want to tell you one more story before I go, or two more things. May I?
Yeah, please do. Go ahead.
Yeah? Okay. One day in 1965, we're in between movies. We're at Graceland. And every once in a while, because every day, to this day, fan letters go pour into Graceland. And they would come in by the thousands in those days. So one day, because every afternoon our schedule was this. When we made movies, as I said earlier, we were at the studio at 8 o'clock. We'd have to get up at like 6 in the morning, and it was like clockwork. We were disciplined, and we would stay till the end of the day, and Elvis would never pull that star crap and leave early. He would never come in late, and we were all professionals. But when we got through the movies and we got to Memphis, we'd go to the movies every night at midnight and watch them until 4, 5, 6 in the morning. So our schedule completely did a 180. So every afternoon at Graceland, during our relaxation movie time, I'd go upstairs every afternoon, do Elvis's hair, and we would talk, and we'd do all sorts of stuff. So this day, we went to the office outside of, in the backyard, Vernon's office, and Elvis's cousin Patsy was there, and Becky, and Elvis grabbed a stack of fan mail. We went upstairs to the room where I did his hair. So I proceeded to do his hair for the evening. And Elvis was reading, and he was reading some funny stuff and laughing. And all of a sudden, he's reading this one letter. He said, "Oh, no, man, this girl's got it all wrong. Listen to this, Larry." And he starts to read me the letter. And the letter went something like this. She said, in the letter, "Elvis, I love you so much. You are the king of rock and roll. You invented rock and roll." And Elvis looks and says, No. No, Larry, no way did I invent rock and roll. Let me tell you the real story. Let me tell you how it really started. It goes way, way back in the deep South, back when the slaves used to suffer and slave their lives away in the fields, picking cotton or whatever the hell they had to do. I'm talking about suffering, Larry. These slaves would get up before the sun came up, and they'd work all day in the blistering sun, and those SOB slave masters would whip these slaves, they would torture them, they did things to them that are unimaginable. Some of those slaves, those poor people died out there in the fields. And you know how they got through it? They got through it because they sang. They would sing and make up songs as they went along. They'd be sweating, suffering, and singing. I'm talking about singing from the depths of the pain and suffering, from their souls, Larry, from their souls. And that's how their songs were born. That's how it all started, and went into their churches. And the white people picked up on it. And then the movie started to grow and to spread. Went into New Orleans, to Honky Tonk. Went into Beale Street, St. Louis. And that's how the blues were born in Chicago and New York. And over the years, and as time went by, and into our time, it became R&B, rhythm and blues. And I was just lucky enough to be in the right place
amazing story.
Amazing story. I can see the time's going by. I'm going to LA in a few days. I got to get ready for it. And
Yep, we gotta let Larry get going.
I want to tell you one more story before I go. All right, may I?
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yes, please do.
We don't want people to tell us to stop, to letting you stop talking. Everybody wants to hear you talk all night.
Yeah,
so.
everybody's chiming in. I want to say hi to Terry Lee from the UK. She's watching.
I realize you'll have some. You said you have someone wrote in something or something?
Yeah, we have lots of people watching live right now, about 25 right now.
Okay. Is there something they want to ask before I go?
Well, I have a question that I wanted to ask.
Absolutely.
And it was actually because of I was listening to I believe you were on the George Klein show, and you were talking. And I had to get out of the car, so I didn't get to hear your answer. But you were talking about how when you guys were doing Elvis's hair for the movies, you always made sure that you styled it a little bit differently from one movie to the, and then you got into why you did that, and I missed the answer. So I would love it if you could tell me that.
Yeah, you know, as I was telling you earlier, Elvis, he got to a point where he just didn't want to make those movies, and it embarrassed him. And so what I did, I told him, I said, Elvis, what I'm doing in every movie, just to give it a little tweak, a little twist, just to make it a little different. I'm going to make your hair a little different. So Elvis fans that are really like Sherlock Holmes will notice in most of Elvis's movies that I did his hair, I made his hair a little bit different. In some movies, the sideburns are a little bigger. Some, I brought his pompadour down a little further, or to the side a little bit more, or I made his sides a little bit fuller. I always made sure that his hair didn't look exactly like the last one or the previous one. I didn't do it. I did it for him, just to give him a little feeling of ease, to let him know that there's a little bit of versatility to what he was doing, and it meant something to him. It was more of a personal thing between me and Elvis, because I didn't think anyone would really notice, you know. Some people might, and now that you know this, you'll see it. So
yeah.
It became a very, very personal. That was a great question, by the way. Thank you, Pete.
Oh, thank you. I've been waiting to talk to you, so I can ask you.
Yeah. And the thing I was going to say for my last thing was, as everyone knows, I can say the word bitch. I know I can. That's allowable.
You can say whatever you want.
That's what it was for me, to say the least. That's the most subtle thing I could say when I had to do Elvis's hair. A few hours before Elvis passed away, I was at Graceland, and we're talking August of '77, and I gave Elvis the very last book over how many books? Oh my God! And the book was called The Scientific Search for the Face of Jesus. And the book was about the holy shroud of Turin, meaning the wrappings that they placed around Jesus' body when they buried him in the tomb after the crucifixion. And Elvis wanted to read about it. And that was, and it's such an appropriate book for Elvis to pass away reading about. And so that day, August 16th, I'm not going to talk about it, which is too much. It was just too heavy duty. And as Vernon, his father, said, Larry, please, Elvis wants you, I know Elvis will want you to go to his hair. You got to do it, Larry. You guys, of course, I'll do it. He said, and the funeral director, Robert Kendall, was standing right next to Vernon at Graceland because they were planning the funeral right away. And Robert said, Larry, just come tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. And Charlie Hodge asked if he could go, and I said, yeah, you go, Charlie. So the next morning at 8 o'clock, we arrive, and Elvis is lying on the table. And I'm looking at him. And it wasn't real. I thought I was dreaming. I thought Elvis was going to open his eyes and say, all right, I'm kidding, let's get back to Great. Mm-hmm. But of course I knew it was reality.
Yeah.
And I stood over him, I'm looking at that face. I'm looking at that beautiful nose, that aquiline, and that face like no other. And I looked at his hair, and I went into shock because I didn't bring my dyes with me. And Elvis had a regrowth of about a half an inch of white hair. Mm. All around his sideburns and his hairline. And thank God there was a female attendant who had black mascara. And in those days, a woman will know what I'm talking about. Today it's like a wand. In those days it was a little brush. I spit in it and I smeared it and I baked it and it worked.
Wow.
And I'm standing over Elvis and I'm remembering so many things when I met him the first time as a kid. And I said, hi, Elvis, I'm Larry Gilliam. I was stuttering. And I remember certain salient moments, seminal moments during all those years. And all of a sudden, it was inexplicable to me why this one particular event I started to think about. But all of a sudden, it was like I'm looking at Elvis, and all of a sudden I'm watching a video, like flip cards, from 10 years earlier, 11 years earlier, 1966. We're at Graceland, and one afternoon, as I'm walking upstairs, because I'm going to do, we're going to talk, I'm going to do his hair like every other day. And I walk into his bedroom, and Elvis is sitting there. And the moment I walk in, I knew there was a problem. Because, when you know someone, you read their body language. And Elvis is looking at me, and he's shaking his head. And I said, what's wrong, Elvis? He said, what's wrong? I'll tell you what's wrong. And he handed me a movie magazine. In those days, it wasn't like the National Enquirer or in those days, it was movie magazines that were the popular thing, and there was a picture of Elvis on the cover that they took from one of his movies, and he's crying, and the cover said something like, Elvis is in deep grief over his mother's death. He said, man, do you believe it, Larry? Do you believe it? That was 8 years ago. Read what it says. Read the article. So I started to read the article, and it went like, it said, Elvis's friends and family are very concerned. They hear Elvis pacing in his bedroom at 4 a.m, walking back and forth, crying and crying because he can't get over his mother's death. Elvis said, Larry, man, that is so ridiculous. Some of these people are like vultures, man. They're just picking on the bones of the dead. How could they do that? That was 8 years ago. He said, don't get me wrong. That was my mother. No one ever gets over the mother or their father or any loved one's death. But I came to terms with it years ago. He said, Larry, you have no idea what I was going through back then. You can't imagine. Even my fans, they know all about my life, but they have no idea the suffering I went through. He said, man, when I came on the scene, when I first came on the scene, it was so unbelievable. It was like overnight. Everything happened to me all at once. gold record after gold record. My name was plastered everywhere. I was on Tommy Dorsey, on Ed Sullivan, and Milton Berle, and all those TV shows. I went to New York. I went to Hollywood. I made my very first movie. Everything was Elvis, Elvis, Elvis. I was told I was the biggest thing in show business. And then it happened, Larry. Then it happened. Overnight. I made it overnight, and then they took it all away from me. I was drafted into the Army. I had to stop what I was doing. My life became a fairy tale, and they took it away from me. And to tell you the truth, I thought that if I went into the Army and I came out a couple years later, maybe I would be forgotten. People would say, well, what was that guy's name? Elvis Presley or something? You know, they started making funny names. He said, man, I was told that I didn't have to go in the Army. I was offered a deal. They came to me, they said, and the colonel told me, Elvis, you don't have to go in. You don't have to go in like the other guys. You could go and travel around the world to the bases and sing songs and you know, be a spokesperson. And I said, no way, not me. No. I'm just like every other guy, and I want people to know that. I'm not special. I don't want to pull that kind of stuff. I want to go in like the other guys. And so I did. He said, I went in. I went to boot camp. He said, Larry, you know that famous picture of me, and they're buzzing my hair, and I got that silly ass grin on my face? I was dying inside. Larry, that was my hair they were taking off. And I had to pretend I was happy about it. I couldn't stand it. And then it happened, Larry. Then it really happened. Out of nowhere, my mom died on me. My mom was the light of my life. She was the one I trusted, the one I would go to no matter what. She died, Larry. She died. Here I am in boot camp. My career, my life, every thing in my life was taken from me. Suffer, grieve. Larry, I hope you never, ever, ever have to grieve like I did back then. Then, you know what they did? When I'm going through it all, they shipped me out of America, halfway around the world to Germany. Man, was I going through it, and no one knew about it. You think I can let anyone know? I'm Elvis Presley, man. I would go to bed at night. I would say, God, why me? Why me? Why me, God? Things got so dark. Oh, man, Larry. I went through so much. You know what I did? I remember when I was a little boy. Because you know me, Larry, I have got to know the answer, the reasons for everything. I have to know why I was Elvis Presley. I have to know why I was born, why I was given this life, this special life. I've got to know the reason why. And I remember I was a little boy. I was 3, 4 years old. I used to pester my mom, and she was so beautiful. She would always give me the same answer. I'd say, Mom, tell me about Jesse Guerin. Why? Why was he taken? What happened? And she would always tell me the same story. She'd say, honey, God has a plan for everyone's life. He had a plan for Jesse and took him back home to heaven. He has a plan for me, honey. Someday I'll go back, and someday Daddy will go back. And someday, way, way in the future, you'll come back. We'll all be together again. And someday it's all part of God's plan. And Elvis looked at me. He said, that's the truth, Larry. Because that's what I believe. We're all going to go home someday. Now, Elvis is what is, I'm remembering this story, standing above Elvis, doing his hair for his funeral. And I'm remembering that Elvis is telling me something that was magazines and the reporters would do a story like that. But Elvis ended telling me a story that had a philosophical ending, that had meaning. Someday, Larry, but that was Elvis Presley. And I know, and Mindy Miller knows exactly what I'm talking about. So does Don, because they knew Elvis. They knew no matter what was going on in this man's life, he would always bring meaning and significance and love and understanding to everything. And I just want to say one more thing before I must go, and that is that Elvis' funeral was 2 days after he passed away. He died on the 16th. On the 18th at Graceland was his funeral. And when the lid was coming down for the final time, no one would ever see Elvis again. I was standing next to Vernon and Jerry Schilling and George Klein and Joe Esposito. Behind us was Sam and Dick and Alan Fortas and Billy Smith and one or two others. And the lid was coming down for the very last time. And Vernon screamed out, "Son, I'll be with you soon." And the lid's coming down. And I said, "The hell with it. I have to be the last person to ever touch Elvis. I have to do this. I have to. And I put my hand in. And I put it on Elvis' forehead. And I said something silently. And I took my hand out. And the lid closed. And I was the last person to ever touch him.
Wow.
And wow, thank God I'm here to impart and to share and to convey what he asked me to do many, many years ago. And he wanted the world to know that basically he was a spiritual person. And he was a lucky guy. And all he wanted to do was to let people know to love one another. And that's why he was here. That's why he entertained them. And that was his mother's middle name, Gladys Love Presley. And I want to thank you, Krista, and Pete, because I heard a lot about you guys, that you had a very special forum, and you have very special people on, and I appreciate being with you guys and to everyone else. And to let Elvis fans know that he would say so many times throughout the years, if it wasn't for my fans, they gave me the life I have. I owe them everything. They're the ones who made it possible.
Well, Larry, we thank you so much for your time. We know how obviously busy. In fact, you're getting ready to go pack now. And we just thank you so much for taking some of your time and
Absolutely. Okay, guys. And remember, I'm an Elvis fan too.
We love you, Larry, and it's amazing to me. Well, not amazing, but I mean, you saw the charisma and the magic in Elvis the first time you met him in the 50s. You saw it again in the 60s, through the years, but he obviously saw something magical and charismatic about you as well. Within the first 2 hours of speaking together, he was spilling his guts. He was telling you about his life, his stillborn twin brother, and it's no surprise to me. You are so special to all of us. So thank you so much for your time and being with us. And we got to do it again real soon. Thank you so much for being with us.
God bless everybody. I got to run. Talk to you later.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Larry.
Good night.
We'd also like to thank Lee Douglas of Old Time Rock and Roll, always found at www.oldtimernr.com, for converting our show to iTunes. We appreciate you, Lee. Be sure to check out Lee's fantastic site and listen to his weekly shows, all oldies music with no commercials. TCB Radio Network is strictly a fan publication, not affiliated in any way with Elvis Presley Enterprises or any of its affiliates or subsidiaries. Please visit us online at tcbradionetwork.com. All trademarks, product names, company names, and logos mentioned are the properties of their respective owners. All opinions stated within do not necessarily reflect the opinions of anyone else, and certainly not Elvis Presley Enterprises.
Still the King, our theme song for TCB Radio Network podcast, was written by Shane Douglas, produced by Terry Fullwider at Blue Spot Studios, and performed by Peter Alden and his band Crown Electric Company, featuring David Fontana, son of Elvis Presley's original drummer DJ Fontana, on drums.
And Elvis Presley is still the king. Well, he's still the king. That's all right. Man, he sure could sing. That's all right. Still the king.